What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome to the third edition of Dairyland Talk Bucks with myself, Dylan Piccolo, and my good friend and fellow contributor over at Dairyland Express, TJ Bain. TJ, what's up, my man? How's it going? Another good week for the Bucks.
Yeah, pretty good week. How you doing today?
Not too bad. Enjoying. It's Monday morning here or Tuesday morning, and just watch the Bucks have a very nice victory again against Denver last night. But let's start at the beginning of our week, which started last Wednesday when the Bucks lost to the Memphis Grizzlies 116-113 at the Pfizer Forum. The Milwaukee Bucks, I believe it was their first home loss this season. The Bucks just got Memphis Grizzlied. I mean,
Yeah.
There's no really other way to put it. When Marc Gasol has 29, Mike Conley has 26, and Shelvin Mack gives you 15 off the bench. I mean, that's going to put you into a lot of games, and I think that the Bucks just I don't know. I don't think they just brought it that night, and I get that Memphis can really get you out of your game, but that and they shot 25% from 3, 9 to 35. So those are the games that we're going to see throughout the season. All right, they don't have their shot on that night. Can they find other ways to win? Because when it comes down to playoffs and it comes down to crunch time, you're going to have to find other ways to win because the good defensive teams will be trying to take away the Bucks 3-point shot and kind of stunt their rhythm. What do you think the Bucks could have done better against the Grizzlies in terms of kind of maintaining their rhythm? Like, is there a way that a team can get through that when a defense tries to stop them? I'm assuming the great ones do, like the Warriors and teams like that of that nature. But do the Bucks have what it takes to fight through that?
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, they've come back from a lot of sluggish starts, especially this game. They just need to start playing with more energy. Just like Coach Mike said, you got to play with more energy. They have to execute a lot more. Especially when they go cold at night, they need to start driving to the basket more. Instead of trying to hit the three, realize when you're cold, just switching up your game a little bit. That's what Giannis had 31. Milton had 25. So it's just they just need to learn how to finish and just come and have a better start to the game.
Yeah, and I don't want to get people confused saying that the Bucks played bad because I don't think they played very bad. They scored 113 points and their season average is 120. So they're 7 points off. And I'm sorry, but the Grizzlies aren't necessarily in my eyes going to have a game like that. They shot over 50% from the field and 38 from deep. Shelvin Mack was absolutely on fire that night. Former Butler star, hit 3 threes as well, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. But I think that it's just a game that the Bucks need to win. And we're nitpicking. They've been unbelievable. They're 12-4 after last night's victory against Denver. But I think that starting out fast, like you said, has been an issue the last three games this week. The Bucks have lost every first quarter. And they just haven't started out good. I think defenses are starting to kind of swing to their tendencies a little bit. Early in the season with a new system, new players, it's going to take coaches and assistant coaches, other staffs. There's a little bit of time right there where you can kind of go unnoticed to another team before they've really done their homework on you and figured out what kind of makes your offense tick and how can we slow them down as best as possible. So, I mean, I'm not too concerned about the loss at Pfizer Forum. The Bucks played well. It was a Wednesday night game at 8:00. It started, so I'm not too concerned about that. But we learned something about John Henson that game. TJ, why don't you take that away?
Yeah, so it appears that John Henson has a ligament tear in his left wrist. He actually went to the doctors after the Memphis game and said that he was feeling discomfort, and they discovered it. he actually played on it for 3 games before saying anything to the doctor. So it looks like John Henson will be out for 12 weeks.
Yep, and that is a pretty big loss for the Bucks. Never really thought that I would say John Henson was a super big loss for the Bucks, but nevertheless, he was, and he kind of just, he's not necessarily a big loss if Thon Maker can play up to a decent level. It's not any news to anyone that the Bucks center position was actually the worst in basketball last year with Thon Maker and John Henson at the center position. Obviously now that Brook Lopez is there, there's, however, 20, 30 minutes a game where you're going to be pretty set in that center position. But does this change the Bucks rotations more? Do you think that Budenholzer trusts Thon to be there in those clutch third quarter situations? I know he makes a lot of big plays, a lot of blocks, but for every block and good play, there's kind of a head scratching play that he does as well. So do you think that we're going to be seeing in crunch time more Thon Maker during this time with Brook Lopez, when Brook Lopez is off the floor? Or do you think that we're going to be seeing more of that modified small ball lineup with Giannis and, Ersan, or Giannis and, Christian Wood even now?
Yeah, I could see Giannis playing the 5 position at some games. This season he's like, 85% of his field goal makes are inside, the restricted area. So I could definitely see Giannis playing in the center for some games. But, yeah, Coach is going to give Thon a chance. He said after the game, he knows it's his time to really step up and show Coach and the team that he can, have a bigger role on the team. And I think he will. I think if you give a young player a chance like this, he'll shine in these opportunities. You're not asking him to be a starter. You're just asking him to come in, produce a good 20 minutes. And I think he's very capable of doing that.
I think so. I think Thon can go in there and do what he can do. He just has to be in a rhythm. If he's in a rhythm, he's a pretty dynamic player, actually, offensively and defensively. I know we saw Giannis and him looking for his block that went into the stands.
Where'd he go?
Yeah, and and we saw it in the playoffs with Thon, but we've just been searching for consistency. And if you could get another one of your first round picks that actually turn out to be something, you're looking at a pretty good situation when it comes to cap flexibility too, because if you have these players that aren't making John Henson, Delly, Tony Snell, that kind of basketball purgatory of money, that 4 for 40 type deal, 10 million a year, then you're probably in good shape moving forward. Let's move on to game number 2 this week. That was the Bucks hosting the Bulls and Jabari Parker's return to Milwaukee. And wow, what a game. Jabari Parker came out absolutely fast and was on a mission to start out the game. I believe he had 15 points in the first quarter, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, he was going off.
He was going off. And he played well the first quarter and kind of, shell-shocked the Bucks. They were down, 63 to – I'm not very good at math, so excuse me.
Right. It'd be 45, 62 to 45, something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, 45. Now this math is easy. And it kind of shell-shocked Bucks fans, but – in the third quarter, as we've seen many times this year, the Bucks came out and put their foot down and showed that we're the better team. And they pretty much, honestly, wrapped it up in the third quarter with a 46-17 third quarter lead to kind of put it out of reach. Because if you look at the Bucks starters, no Bucks starter played over 31 minutes. Giannis played 31 minutes and 37 seconds. Oh, excuse me. Chris Middleton played 33 minutes. But any night you're getting those guys in at 33 minutes or under, you're in good shape. Really good shape.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The Bucks dominated in the paint, 52 points in the paint compared to the Bulls' 38. Giannis just took over. And like he said, Coach Mike was how do you put it? Very angry at halftime, and message was delivered apparently to said Giannis. Said coach was very angry at the team for having a no effort, no energy, and they came out and almost dropped 50 in one quarter. So it just goes to show you how much these players respect Coach Mike so much, and would run through a wall for him. And that's the type of chemistry that you want from between coach and player to really have an elite team.
And I don't really think the Bucks are playing that well yet. Honestly, I think the Bucks are playing good, but I don't think everyone on the Bucks roster is playing great yet. I don't think Giannis has played very good. I don't think Brogdon has played very good. I mean, I don't think Ersan's necessarily been that effective. But, Pat Connaughton, he's been playing great minutes. Tony Snell, he's been playing pretty good minutes, 11 points against the Bulls. I mean, 5 of 7 shooting. I think that, when it comes to the Bucks, you got to look at where you're getting your points from and how often does that come on a consistent night. You got to expect Giannis and Chris to probably get you probably close to 50 points a game. That's probably your benchmark. But then when Eric Bledsoe's coming with an additional 25 on 10 of 13 from the field and 3 of 5 from deep, that's a whole nother ball game. You can't stop that. When you have 3 guys coming out there relentlessly. And you call me crazy, but I think Eric Bledsoe has been the MVP of the Bucks so far this season.
I mean, he's definitely the Bucks have an intriguing situation for this all season when it comes to him, though, because is he a max player? What kind of contract should he sign? The way that he's playing this year, every team is taking notice of Eric Bledsoe. That is for sure.
And I think his physicality, I mean, you look at last year, he was kind of thrusted into a poor situation when it comes to coaching with, Jason Kidd at the time, then Joe Prunty, and kind of that whole mess and not knowing how to use the coaches were not knowing how to use each one of the Bucks' 3 superstars. And now you insert, Lopez into the starting lineup, Connaughton off the bench, Ilyasova. I mean, we're starting to see here with this Bucks team an evolution. We're starting to see, like you said, respect between the Bucks players and Budenholzer, which is leading to on-court chemistry and is leading to getting the most out of all these players. Because when it comes down to it, that's what we got Mike Budenholzer to do. Get the most out of each one of these players that have been underperforming. Now, Delly, not lost cause. That is just wasted money. That's just sitting out there. But with Thon and Tony Snell and even John Henson when he was healthy, 3 out of the 4 players that were a pure negative on your roster last year in terms of both value and salary, like making $10 million a year, not to do anything really significant, but to slide into a more of a bench role where they're focused on doing the little things that they do right, you're getting value out of that pick. And that's what having Budenholzer does. He just turned negatives on your roster and turn them into assets.
Yeah, I just, go back to what you were saying about, Dell, he is, it's a big contract for not a lot of minutes, no production. And I wonder if the Bucks will try to trade him before the deadline or just kind of just not mess with the roster at all because of how well they're playing and just wait till the, off season to try to get rid of that, to have some cap space for the off season.
Yeah, I think they're in a kind of a little predicament right now in terms of Phoenix. That trade we made for Eric Bledsoe with Greg Monroe, that first round pick that was protected. I'm not 100% certain on the circumstances of that trade, the protections on that, but I believe that could be hindering the Bucks' ability to get Delly off the books because you're going to have to sweeten the team to take Delly off the books. And I mean, there are teams that are going to be looking to get cap space and will take an expiring contract, perhaps to give you maybe a guy that they're not happy with, but maybe fits more on the Bucks roster. But in terms of right now, I like where this roster is. I think that everyone is kind of joining in. I would say that I would like another backup point guard. because I think Brogdon, I think he's good at the 2, and I think he's good at the 1. He's flexible at both. But if we can, I want to see what it's like when he's just focused on one thing. Because at 6'5", at a point guard spot, he can be pretty dominant when it comes to bringing the ball up, getting you in their offenses. And I think we've seen how good of a finisher Malcolm Brogdon has been this year.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote an article talking about if he's a max player or not. There's going to be a lot of teams looking at Malcolm Brogdon. The Bucks just have a very, interesting offseason on their hands. Got Eric Bledsoe, Malcolm Brogdon sitting there at the guard positions, all on 1-year contracts. So, the trade deadline is going to be intriguing for this team. Will they try to dump some salary? Will they just try to make a push and keep it how it is? Or, try to see if they can get some picks for the draft. You never know. But I honestly think they'll just stay as it is. I mean, and just try to sign everybody and just try to convince, Bledsoe and Brogdon to stay on a lower contract. Like, hey, look what we got building here. So I could see the front office making some moves.
Absolutely. And I think we'll have to wait and see until the trade deadline happens. I don't foresee any Eric Bledsoe side. I mean, who knows? With Bradley Beal and John Wall on the move, I know it's – and my friend Alexander Juno, who does stuff over at Cream City Central, had tweeted that, I couldn't find – I think he said, I couldn't find any way to get Beal to Milwaukee based on ESPN's trade machine. So it's going to be definitely – I mean, trust me, though, if the Bucks acquired Bradley Beal – and moved him to that shooting guard position and moved Brogdon to the bench, you're definitely, honestly, you're talking about a for real championship contender. And I know that's all hypothetical, and, who knows if that would ever happen. But crazier things have happened. So let's move on to last night's game against the Denver Nuggets, the second time in, I think it was maybe 8 days we played the Nuggets, this time at Pfizer Forum. The Bucks defeated the Nuggets 104-98. In kind of a similar fashion that they beat the Bulls. They fell back in the first half, getting down almost 17 points, and then outscoring the Nuggets by 16 points in the second half. Are we starting to get a point with these Bucks where they can get down by a decent amount and you still feel comfortable that they can come back, at least at home?
Well, I can't believe I'm about to say this about a player that had 29 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists, 2 steals. But, man, I wish Giannis could start hitting his shots a little bit more. He was 0 for 6 from the three-point line. I just, he's driving to the basket a lot, but I think the teams would fear him a lot more if he could start hitting his three. And I think the Bucks overall would not fall back as much if he started hitting his shots more. More teams are going to start, taking the charge on Giannis, and then it's going to start slowing down. So I wish he would start hitting his shot more, and if he does that, I'm not worried about them coming back whatsoever.
Yeah, it was another questionable, not questionable, but a little down shooting night for the Bucks. 11 of 36. Giannis's 6 misses on 6 attempts didn't help that whatsoever. In terms of Giannis's shot, I coach high school basketball. I, played a little at college, and from my vantage point I'm just a disclaimer, I'm not putting out myself as an expert or anything. I see the rhythm of his shot as the problem. Right when he catches the ball, there is a problem with his form because he has to think about shooting it. That's what he's not confident enough where he can get it and he can just pull it. He thinks about it. He looks at the defender and then he'll go up. Not only does that give defenders time to close, but it sets your whole jump shot out of rhythm. I think his jump shot kind of takes a little bit too long for my liking. And I know, I'm not comparing him as skill-wise to Kevin Durant, but body type, look how Kevin Durant, for how long he is, look how quick he gets his shot up. And I know he's been shooting his whole life, and he's perfected that. And Giannis, relatively new to the game of basketball still at this point, at this level, and to what this, what his physical tools say. Obviously, he's going to be a dynamic player, like you said, 85% of his points in the restricted zone, but he's just got to be smoother with it. He's just got to go up with it, shoot it, dude. I mean, he definitely got 6 of them up. He missed them all, but you got to start seeing some makes here. Because right now, early in the season, you're starting to see his confidence dwindle in that 3-point shot, and that's not what you can have. So, I'd encourage Budenholzer, run a couple plays for him off a curl to get a nice shot, get him a couple mid-rangers to get going, but he needs to definitely focus on getting his shot up in a more timely fashion, and I think the urgency will create a little more rhythm within his jump shot.
Yeah, he'll become unguardable almost if he starts, hitting those jump shots. And I think he will. He's at that weird stage right now where he's going to start really pushing the envelope and really trying to make an MVP. So I think he'll start hitting those shots, and that's what's going to make him so scary and dominant in the league.
What do you have to say about the Bucks kind of separating themselves here in the last, in the last few games here? 3-0, kind of what we expected from the Bucks within this span, or 2-1, excuse me, in this 3-game stretch with the loss to the Grizzlies. Kind of what we were expecting for the Bucks to do. But you've definitely seen some other teams sort of fall off the wagon here. Boston's 9-8. They seem like they're struggling with Gordon Hayward back, trying to get him, assimilated into their offense. Philly's not played that well. Toronto's pretty good, but they've lost a couple of games. What do you think of the terms of how the Bucks stand up in the hierarchy of the Eastern Conference?
Well, I mean, I actually, I was looking at the NBA power rankings for ESPN, and they actually have them at 2 on, above the Warriors.
Yep.
This week, which I agree with, because it says that they're Milwaukee ranks number 2 and number 5 in offensive and defense efficiency. So I mean, only Bucks and Raptors are the only 2 teams that rank in top 5 in both. So this team is one of the most dominant teams in the league, and I think they are number 2. I mean, it's just the Raptors, them, and maybe the Warriors, but yeah, they're definitely the second best team in the East, and most definitely the second best team in the league.
I'm not putting Toronto ahead of Milwaukee. I think the Bucks are the best team in the NBA right now of what we've seen. The Bucks have beaten Toronto. And let's get it straight here with these losses the Bucks have had. These 4 losses the Bucks have had this season. So you have 4-point loss to the Celtics on the road, 15 points at Portland, 2 points against the Clippers, and 3 points against the Grizzlies. So these the margin, the Clippers and the Grizzlies are both 11-5. The Bucks' 3 losses to the Western Conference teams are all tied for first place in the Western Conference right now. 11-5, 11-5, and 11-5. Lakers, Memphis, Portland. So they're losing to quality teams. Portland's good. You go into Portland and Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum start getting hot, and especially CJ McCollum, when he starts rolling, it's over. You can't do anything about that. But that's going to happen in the NBA. It's an 82-game season. And then they lost to Boston, who has all-stars on their team. Yeah, they've been kind of, not great. But the Bucks have had chances to win those games. They had chances to win the Clippers game. They had chances to win the Grizzlies game. And they had chances to win the Boston game. So think about it. One bad game the Bucks have played in their first 16. Where were we last season with this Bucks team? I don't even want to know where we were after 16 games. I'm sure it's not like this. So the Bucks are changing the narrative of what others are thinking about them, and you're starting to see it in these power rankings. I was listening to NBA Sirius Radio, and Bucks were ranked second as well, and Toronto was ranked number 1. But I think it's pretty up for debate about where Toronto and the Bucks actually kind of rank out. I think, the Warriors obviously are, a little difficult. But I mean, listen to this. Like, Toronto lost by 16 at home to the Pelicans, by 2 to the Pistons, and by 7 to the Celtics, and of course 15 to the Bucks. So I don't understand how people are putting Toronto ahead of them, really. Especially if you really start breaking down who they played. You're seeing a lot of Cavaliers, Wizards, Hornets, T-Wolves, Mavs type teams, Suns, Kings. So they're not really playing any world beaters. While if you look at the Bucks schedule, I think they're playing against some pretty dominant competition. So before we wrap this up, I'd like to do our superlatives for the week. I want to know who your week 3, I guess it is for us, MVP is for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Well, I guess I'll go with Giannis. I'll just take the simple route. He was just dominant all week. 30 points almost every game, or almost 30 points every game, a double-double. He's a walking triple-double, So Giannis is my MVP of the week.
I'm going to have to go with who I mentioned earlier as my MVP of the week, Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe has been absolutely on fire. Doing it in pretty efficient fashion, shooting over 50% 2 times in this stretch. Plus 16 against Memphis. He obviously led the team in scoring with 25 on 77% shooting against the Bulls and a plus 19. Eric Bledsoe has been getting this offense going, and he's been feeling it when it comes to him getting to the basket as well. And 23, 15, 25, and 23 over the week for Eric Bledsoe, who's really maybe the most important player on this Bucks roster. If he can give them solid third man numbers on a night in and night out basis, he can start to be what the Bucks need to push themselves into that upper echelon for good and not just for the time being. All right. So what the Bucks have moving forward this week, they have a game on Wednesday against Portland where they'll try to get back, after suffering that 15-point loss to them at Portland. And then they'll host on consecutive nights, the Suns and the Spurs. So DeMar DeRozan will be cool to see. DeAndre Ayton. I have tickets to all 3 of these games, actually, so that'll be a fun week for me. What do you think? On Monday, they go to Charlotte again, where they snuck away with a 1-point victory over the Hornets. What can you expect in this 4-game stretch for the Bucks here from Wednesday to Monday?
I can see them going 3-1. Trailblazers are kind of struggling. The Suns are a bottom tier team, but a young bottom tier team. Like they can win any night. So I respect to the Suns, and the Spurs are the Spurs. But the Hornets are the ones that I'm most intrigued with. Kemba Walker is going off this year, so that's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, I think Kemba Walker is unreal. I watched him play last night against the Celtics, and he was hitting some massive shots. So it was impressive to see that. I could see the Bucks as well going 3-1 during this span. I think that if the Bucks continue to go 3-1, they'll be in good shape. That's what it comes down to. So if they just keep winning these games, I think they'll end up being in good shape. But so 3-1 is where we're both at. I think that's very feasible. Well, I guess that wraps it up for this edition of Dairyland Talk. I want to thank TJ Bain, as always, for joining me. Had some great stuff over at Cream City Center, at Dairyland Express, and you can check him out on Twitter at Top Rated Sports. My name is Dylan Piccolo. You can check me out on Twitter at DP_hoops. Check me out as well at Dairyland Express. We want to thank you for listening to the podcast. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. You can search Dairyland Talk as well. Check out our Twitter page, Dairyland Express on Twitter, to check out the latest on the Brewers, Badgers, Bucks, and Packers. Kind of going into basketball season here, as the Packers aren't playing very well. So we want to thank you again and have a fantastic rest of your day.